Hi, my name is David. Today we're going to do number 1913, maximum product difference between two pairs on LeetCode, and we're going to be solving this in JavaScript. So we have a function here that takes in an array of numbers, and it wants to return a number, and that number is the maximum output you can get by getting the difference of multiplying two numbers and subtracting them together, and multiplying two numbers and subtracting it to the difference of two numbers. So if you look at this example, 5, 6, 2, 7, 4, we return 34 because the maximum difference we have is 6 times 7 minus 2 times 4 equals 34. And we can see here that the pattern is that we need to get the two largest numbers and then minus it by the two smallest numbers, and that is going to give us our output. So one way we can do this is that we can sort this array and then get the index of 0, index of 1, and then the last index, and then the last index minus 1, and use that to calculate our output. But that will require sorting, and it'll be log of time complexity of n log n. So let's see if we can figure out a way to solve this in a single loop. And then there's a clever way of solving this. And at first, I was thinking we'll just find the largest. We'll loop through this, and if it's the largest, we make it the largest. If it's second largest, we make it the second largest. If it's the smallest, we make it the smallest. And then if it's the second smallest, making a second smallest, and it costs a lot if else. But we can just focus, instead of sorting it just for those four categories, we focus on the two largest ones and then the two smallest ones, and then use only if else for the largest or the second use an if else for the largest and the second largest, and then use a separate if else for the smallest and the second smallest, and then we can find out the output. So here what I mean. So we want to create a largest variable and we want it, the constraints is that it's going to be 1 to 10 to the fourth. So we don't have to do it. So we want to replace this variable in the first loop when we see the largest. So we do 0. So we're going to compare that to 0. It's going to get updated. Now we can create a second largest too, because that's what we need. And that can also be a 0 that we're going to update in our loop. And now we have to do the smallest. So create smallest variable. And this is we can set it up to infinity and then update, see if any number is going to be smaller than infinity. So it's going to be updated in the first iteration. And now we also have to create second smallest to infinity. Now we're going to loop through nums. And inside of this loop, we first check an if else for the largest. So if current num, so nums I is greater than largest. So if it's the largest, that goes down the chain. So whatever's the largest becomes the second largest. So second largest is equal to largest now, and then the largest gets updated. And now we have a else if, and now we check for the second largest as well. So because there's two ways the second largest can be updated. From we just update the largest, it goes down to second largest, or we find a number that's the second largest. So if else if the current number is less than largest and bigger than the second largest. And here we can only just update the second largest. So we do this if else just for the largest. Now we do a separate if else in the same loop for the smallest. So if nums I is less than smallest, we just do the opposite of what we had before. So I mean, we just do what we had before, but with the smallest. So second smallest. Let me update my variables. Equals smallest, and then smallest equals the current number. And now we add that other else if, and we have to see if it's bigger than the smallest but less than the second smallest. Now we update the smallest second. Great, so after we do this loop, we have what we want as the variables, and now we can just perform this calculation of multiplying them and then finding the difference. So we can just return largest times largest second minus smallest times smallest second. Great. So to put this in code, we do let largest equal to 0, let largest second equal to 0, let smallest equal to infinity, let smallest second equal to infinity. Now we loop through for let I equals 0, I is less than nums.length, I plus plus, and now we check for the largest. So if and we can just create a variable for the current num. So if current num is greater than largest, we have to update the second largest first. Great. Now we do the else if for the second largest. So in the case that the current num is less than largest, and also current num is greater than the largest second, we update largest second. Great. So now, after this if else, we check for smallest and second smallest. So if current num is less than smallest, we update the second smallest first. And now we do our else if for when the current number is greater than smallest and also less than the second. So we update it. It will be pretty much the opposite of what we have for the second largest. Great, and now we can just return the math equation. So largest times largest second minus smallest times smallest second. Great. Oh, sorry. There's also another edge case where if they're all equal to each other, so we can simply do at the less than or greater than for each one, because a number can also be the smallest or the largest, the largest or the second largest, and also the smallest and second smallest. And there we go. That's how we do this one. I mean, finish adding the. There we go. And then the time and space complexity. Because we are doing a single loop, it's going to be O of n, where n is the length of nums, length of our nums array here. And then our space complexity, we're just creating constant variables no matter how long everything is. So it's going to be O over 1. So that's how you solve this problem. Thank you so much.